Joining us now is ABC News contributor and former Trump Homeland Security Advisor Tom Bossert. Thanks so much for your time, Tom. We'll get to the transition in a moment, but let's get back to the pandemic first. Now, you initially expressed your concern back in February with us about how bad things could get. 9 months later, the pandemic appears to be worse than ever in many parts of the country. A pandemic record 1.2 million travelers passed through TSA checkpoints just yesterday. That was despite warnings by officials to stay at home. How concerned are you now about the surge that we may see in the next few weeks?
Yeah, Lindsay, we're right back to where we started. The whole objective was to buy time until we got the pharmaceutical solution. And in that time, to try to keep the amount of sickness below the healthcare system's capacity to handle it. And what we're seeing is that we have failed to do that in at least 30 different states. And of course, it looks like more. So the healthcare system breaks. And when that happens, you don't just have COVID patients being treated by ill-equipped facilities and physicians, but you have others going untreated. And so we are at that line that we tried to flatten the curve beneath from the outset.
And today the White House hosted an indoor holiday party. This is precisely the type of gathering that CDC officials are discouraging Americans from having this holiday season. In your view, does this type of party undermine messaging from public health officials to stay at home?
Yeah, it not only does, but think about this at a personal level. It really makes it harder for those of us trying to convince our family and our friends and our friends' families that these types of things, temptations to be sure, like going to holiday parties, Thanksgiving dinner just behind us, and Christmas gatherings in front of us, are really things to be reconsidered. This is the real problem with this virus. We're not trained as human beings to think of our friends and families as people that might be dangerous to us. So we have a hard time wrapping our mind around it. I'd prefer to see our public leaders making a different decision here and setting a better example.
The inauguration just 51 days away. Until then, the Trump administration is in charge of pandemic response. While the administration has touted vaccine successes, do you think that enough is being done right now to prevent this pandemic from getting even worse before Biden takes over?
No, not at the federal level at all. In fact, I think too many people around this president, and perhaps even this president, have subscribed to this great Barrington Declaration notion that we can simply keep the disease away from the vulnerable. Well, that's not working out very well for us. In fact, we're seeing in nursing home facilities and long-term care facilities all across the country that the amount of virus in a community makes that impossible. And so the idea of doing these things to allow half the country back to work and the other half to somehow magically stay away from the other are really just not a plan at all. So there are appropriate steps being taken at state and local levels, but I don't see a uniform approach or a coordinated one supported by federal authorities yet at this late stage.
And the president had said before the election that the military can help distribute the vaccine. In your mind, does the military have an important part to play in vaccine distribution?
Well, the president's right on that. I think the military is an important part to play. I think they have a lot of inherent skills and experience in logistics management of this scale. And remember, the military also partners with and works closely with private logistics support companies like FedEx and UPS and others. So I think that they'll bring their expertise to bear here in a life-saving way. In this regard, the president on pharmaceuticals and on distribution of vaccines really does have a good plan.
And Tom, you, of course, worked in the Trump administration and collaborated on the transition with Obama officials. What types of conversations and what kind of planning should be taking place right now with regard to COVID?
I did with the Obama team in both incoming and outgoing roles, right? I transitioned from Bush to Obama and then back from Obama to Trump. And what I saw were two well-trained, well-organized, well-led transition efforts that recognized beyond just the candidate and the outgoing president, but all of their cabinet members and supporting staff need to be brought up to speed. And that's the hard part. So we see PDB briefings and intelligence briefings at a very senior level. But really, for a president to govern, he has to have, or eventually one day she, a whole set of 7,000 appointees ready to help pick up the responsibilities of running all the apparatus of government.
Now, President-elect Biden received his first intelligence briefing today, 23 days after the election. Are there real national security concerns with this gap? And what must happen in the Biden transition as a whole to make up for all this lost time?
I don't want to overreact too much about this gap. We've seen this before, but it's an important time. we've seen our enemies try to exploit this, kind of transition and operational responsibility before. And the exploitation doesn't just happen during this transition period to the left, so to speak, of inaugural day. It continues for the first months and even the first year of a new presidency. And so I think it's hard for me to say whether enough is being done. The incoming team is very experienced. They've all worked in these roles in departments and agencies in the past. But I would say that it's important to get moving because, as we all know, intelligence failures come right now and they turn around to bite us in the next 6 months or year. 9/11 and the 9/11 Commission really highlighted that. But in my experience, there are things that people need to see on a daily basis that really never even make it to the president or president-elect. And the faster those people can be nominated and confirmed, the better.
Tom Bossert, thanks as always for your insight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.